I always had that dream since childhood to live in the wild, live in nature. I don't know why. It was just so deeply in me that I adjusted everything in my life to realize that dream. Every morning when I get out in front of the door, I still appreciate it. I'm still as happy as I was on the first day.
Hello and welcome to the Wild Shutter Podcast. I'm Matthew Gehly, your host. Today we have a very exciting guest with us all the way from the Yukon. We have Beat Glanzmann, and I knew that I was going to goof up his name, but he's been lenient with me already. Highly recommend that you tune in and watch this on YouTube. We're going to be sharing lots of images, and as you can see right now, Beat is behind the, on the porch of a cabin that he has built himself, and I'm super excited to hear about that. But if you've never seen him on Instagram, I came across him this past winter, and I can't believe that I haven't before, but what I was doing at the time, locally, we have a lot of bald eagles, so the algorithm had seen that I was shooting a lot of bald eagles, and Beat has some amazing bald eagle images that we'll get into here shortly. And I think the algorithm was like, hey, you need to see these images. So that's how I came across him. So maybe you could tell us a little bit about your location, where you're at, and what you have set up there.
So first of all, thank you so much for having me there. It's my pleasure, and I'm really excited. So, as you can hear, I have a Swiss accent. I grew up in Switzerland, and I left Switzerland when I was 24 years old with no money and a backpack with my ex-wife, and we moved here to Kluane National Park. Kluane National Park is right at the border to Alaska in northern Canada in the Yukon, and yeah, that's about it.
So, 24 years old, you're out on your own. What attracted you to this location?
I started professional photography in the age of 21, and I was in the mountain guide program before of that. And when I started with the photography, I knew right away that's the thing I want to do. And I always had that dream since childhood to live in the wild, live in nature. I don't know why. It was just so deeply in me that I adjusted everything in my life to realize that dream. So I started doing bear photography tours in Alaska, and I did my first bear tour when I was 21 years old. And I always was looking for a piece of property that I could afford. You know, that the money was an issue. It was very hard for me. I didn't have any support. And I couldn't find any properties in Alaska. So one day I decided to travel down to the Yukon to check out that Kluane National Park. And when I seen that the first time, I knew right away that's the place I want to be. You know, beautiful lakes, beautiful mountains, untouched nature, and it looked very similar to the place where I grew up in Switzerland in the mountains, but without all those people. And I knew that that's it. And then we were very lucky that we found that property. There was a family living here, they just couldn't take it anymore, and they desperately tried to sell it, and we had a great deal. We could buy the property here for $60,000, and yeah, that's how everything started.
Well, that's fantastic. So, was there a dwelling on the property already?
There was an old house, but in really poor conditions. I remember, you know, when in those days the winters were very cold. that all changed now. But I remember we moved in on the 1st of February in 96, and it was 44 minus on the outside. We slept in our sleeping bags on the floor, and the candles just blew out, from the draft. And we were hammered by mice everywhere on our faces, and it was just brutal. In the morning, I had to chisel off the ice from the door to get out. It was a tough start, but we had a dream, and we never had any regrets. So yeah.
So on your property now, you have a main cabin for you, and then you have additional cabins where you take guests. And from what I understand, you built these cabins by hand, by yourself?
Yes, absolutely. So it was important for me when I live in nature that I have a very close connection to my surroundings and the way I live. So it was clear that we built our own cabins. So first we did all the cabins. It's 5 guest cabins in total, and we also did build that large house here. It's a big 3-story log house, and we worked 4 years on it. But it had its price. It's a lot of work. It's hard work, and this was also too much pressure on our relationship, and it broke our marriage too. So that was it. But we still get along great, and we're still business partners. But she lives on the other side of the property, and I live on this side. And it works well that way now.
Wow.
Yeah.
So where did the skill come to be able to build a cabin? I mean, because photography and carpentry are 2 completely different things.
Yeah, so it's amazing what we can do when we really want it. So to tell you the truth, I went to a library in Whitehorse, came home with the book How to Build a Log House, and I just started with the book in one hand and chainsaw on the other hand. And I made lots of mistakes with the first cabin, but then you learn, and we didn't have the choice. We couldn't hire anyone to build those houses and cabins, so we had to do it by ourselves. So it's just having a vision and believe on it and just do it.
Oh, that's amazing. It reminds me, I like to watch those shows where people are basically living off the grid and they're building things and harvesting from the land, and and that's exactly what you're doing. And I think it's so cool that people are able to come to your workshops and basically participate in that lifestyle. So how far away are you from a grocery store?
When I go shopping, I drive 400 kilometers. That's around 300 miles. Wow. So when I run out of toilet paper, I have to improvise. It's a long ways. There's only one small city, Whitehorse. There is a small gas station store in the next small community in Henge Junction. This is 35 kilometers away. I have road access here, and but it's 35 kilometers to the next smaller community.
Wow. Wow. So how often are you making a trip to gather up supplies?
The way I eat is very basic. I eat wild game meat every day and salmon, and I have a huge garden, and I eat lots of greens, tons of greens, and my wild game. So I'm on a kind of ketogenic diet, or whatever you call it. So I'm very basic, so I can last for a long, long time without going to get some groceries or gas. And so I go in maybe every 3 weeks. And I'm not really keen in to go to community here. I'm hiding out here. I like to be alone too. It's yeah.
Yeah. No, this sounds perfect. I envy you. Not needing to go into the community sounds great.
Yeah, there's
So,
nice people. There's nice people there.
oh, sure.
But I'm a bit introverted, I guess, or I like to live in my world here. I'm happy with that.
Yeah, for sure. So, I saw in a reel that you had mentioned that it's a hard life, but it's a fulfilled life. So, what is maybe one of the most difficult things, and maybe we've already discussed that, but then what is some of the most fulfilling things about your lifestyle?
So for me, the hardest right now is being away from family. It's a long. I mean, it's 7,000-8,000 kilometers. That's a long way. And now my parents are getting old, and you never know when it's the last time you talked. So that's a long ways. For me, right now, this is the hardest. And another challenge in that life is being alone a lot. So, but it depends how you deal with that. I mean, being alone in the silence and surrounded by nature can enrich you. You can grow on it or you can break on it. It depends how you deal with it. And another hard part is there are 100 things that can break from the car that won't start anymore. The generator breaks and you have to be able to help yourself. But what fulfills me here is living off the land, more or less. Every morning when I get out in front of the door, I mean, I still appreciate it. I'm still as happy as I was on the first day, and I live my dream. But it is it's a hard life. There's lots of work involved, cutting wood, splitting wood, and the winters are long. It can be dark, and it's just important that you stay healthy and keep your optimism and see the good in life. Because you're far away from going out with a buddy when you have a personal issue and drink a beer with him and have a discussion. You have to self-reflect and look at your own problems and deal with it. So that can make you grow or it can break you.
Wow. Yeah, for sure. So this area that you're in, that you are able to look out that front door, as you just mentioned, and be just as happy, what makes Kluane National Park so special?
It is, Kluane Park is the largest nature preserve on this planet. The Kluane National Park is connected with four other national parks and state parks, and it's huge. I couldn't compare the size, with the state, but it's huge. It's extremely huge. So there's hardly any tourism. There's no lodges or hotels or roads. It's pure untouched nature, and it has the largest mass of mountain on that planet as well. Mount Logan is the highest peak. It's just a few feet lower than Mount McKinley, but it has a surrounding of 150 kilometers. It's huge. It's larger than Mount Everest in its mass. And it has the largest non-polar ice fields. And it's just a big, pure wilderness.
Wow. So what kind of wildlife do you have around your property then?
Bears, lots of bears, black bears, grizzly bears, and moose, wolves. We always have to be careful with the wolves here. They like to eat the dogs. And and the bears. But it's just, you just have to follow some rules and to make it safe, and you get along well with the wildlife here. But you have to follow some rules, yeah.
This episode of the Wild Shutter Podcast is brought to you by Cotton Carrier. The Cotton Carrier G3 harness system is my favorite way to carry my camera when I'm out in the field. The ergonomic design of the G3 harness system distributes the weight of your camera, helping to lessen the fatigue of a long shooting day. The G3 keeps you hands-free, your equipment safe, and your body mobile and ready to shoot. Use the link in the description below and use the coupon code WILDSHUTTER to get 10% off your purchase at cottoncarrier.com. Now, let's get back to the podcast. You shared with me an incredible shot of a grizzly bear, great low angle. He's walking right towards us. Maybe tell me a little bit about that shot.
Yeah, so I have quite a connection to that specific shot. It was a bear I photographed for a long time, and I gave her the name Daisy, and she was a beautiful blonde grizzly bear, and I was with her almost every day, and she was very special. You know, those bears here are different than all those bears, or most of the bears you see out there in Alaska. You know, those bears out there are used to people. Here, when you meet the bear, those are wild bears, so they're more shy, but they're not as tolerant. So Daisy was very intolerant, and I knew that right away when I started shooting her. And she had 2 cubs, and that particular day I was waiting for her on a creek in the open, so far enough that she could see me from a long distance. But she just came out and came straight at me, and I was just able to push that shutter for a photograph, and a second later she bluff charged me. She just ran at me. Yeah, so, and it turned out, it was just luck, but it turned out as a really unique shot with that front direct eye connection. And that's why I have a really good memory to that moment there.
Yeah. So I was wondering, because it is so remote, if the bears would be maybe less likely to be skittish and want to run off, just because they don't see people, so it wouldn't be something that would bother them. But so it is kind of rare to be in these situations to get a photograph like this, I guess.
Yeah, so the bears are definitely different compared to the coastal bears in Alaska. I mean, you can see bears here along the road, and they're getting used to cars as well. But normally the wild bears here are shy, and they try to stay away from humans. As long as you don't attract them with food, they want to go, they don't want to have any trouble, so they try to go around you. But with moose, it's, you know, I really like to go out in remote places, fly out somewhere to a place where moose never seen humans before. With the moose, it's a different situation. So when I'm out there and I call moose, and they come in and they've never seen humans, they totally approach you as a. It's amazing when you do your call right. They really approach you, and they don't look at you as a human. They see you as a moose cow. So with the moose, it's probably that way, that they don't have that fear, that natural fear to humans. But the bears, as long as they don't are habituated, they really try to stay out of troubles with humans.
Yeah, I totally understand that. Where I'm at in Pennsylvania, the wildlife I think a big issue is that they're hunted so much. So to be able to get close to wildlife where I'm located is very difficult for bears. You rarely ever see them because they see you first and they're out of there. But deer are the same way. So totally understand that. Now, on the other side of it, different species, you shared two just incredible bald eagle images. Do you have a large population of eagles right around your cabin?
Yeah, yes, it's a good populations of bald eagles here. But where I go for my eagle shots is in Alaska, and they just meet every fall. They fly in from northern Canada, from the Yukon, and from Alaska, all to that one certain spot to meet to feast on that last salmon that runs up. And there are up to 3,500 eagles, sometimes 4,000.
Wow.
Yeah, So it's the largest concentration of eagles in the world. Yeah.
So tell me about this image then. It's a kind of has a blue tint to it, and you were able to blur the wings and get the head of the eagle still sharp. Was that like a panning shot that you did with a slower shutter?
Yeah. So it's a panning shot, and to tell you the truth, those shots are pure luck.
Yeah. Lots of frames, right?
Yeah, I mean, you just shoot and you produce lots of crap, but from time to time you got a winner. But the reason I like that shot so much is when I like to break the rules. I like to shoot straight into light, and I also like to shoot when it gets too dark or when it's still too dark in the morning. And when many other photographers is not taking out his camera, I just like to experience. And that's exactly what happened with that shot. I just experienced with the long shutter speed and just tried to create something different. And it's just a question of time when you have the creativity. It's just a question of time and something special comes out of it.
Wow. So the other eagle shot that you shared, I'll let you tell the story behind that. And I've seen so many videos that you've created, just reels on Instagram where eagles are diving down and there's a lot of snow floating around and everything. And I don't know if this came from maybe one of those recent reels that you've shared, but I love the shape that is created here. I'll let you talk.
Yeah, it's the same. I mean, those are those high speed action shots, and fully against the light with a backlit, and that's another thing I really like. In my heart, I'm a photographer. I'm not a videographer. I mean, video is fun, but the real art of photography for me is in still. So, and I like to nail down those moments where our eye cannot follow. So that shot was made with 3,200 of a second, and you see that snow dust splashing up on those birds, and they're fully symmetry. It just looks like yeah, it's amazing, and they're connected with their talents. So it's a high speed action shot, and same there. It also takes a lot of luck to get it.
Absolutely, but you've got to put yourself out there. If you're just sitting at home, you're not going to see something like that. And you're absolutely right. Video's fantastic, but that moment, if you were witnessing that in person or even on video, you would never see that locking moment with your eye. But because you're shooting a still image, you're able to really appreciate just, even if you broke it down to a silhouette, just the positioning of everything that's going on there, it's beautiful. And like you said, that snow popping up was because of where the light was coming from. So you're able to see all of that. It's just incredible.
Yeah, thank you so much. And as I mentioned before, just breaking the rules sometimes, try something new, just shooting fully against the backlight can bring you something special, but we just have to be creative. It's always, I think the creativity is always a very important part to think, to imagine what could happen if I try this or try that is a big part of creating something special.
Yeah, and I think in today's digital world where we're swiping and we're looking at so many images, whenever you have that creativity, it really stands out. It's easy to get portrait shots. I shouldn't say it's easy, but you can get portrait shots. But whenever you do it in a different kind of way, whenever the light is different, whenever the action is different like this, that's how you stand out in this maybe oversaturated world that we're living in.
Well, that's a good point. I mean, we could talk for hours now about that AI, and I'm really in some ways I'm concerned because I get so many comments now, AI, and I am using AI. I use AI, but it's a difference if you remove a stick in an image with AI, or if you create a totally new image. And I see a big difference in that. I mean, I'm using AI for sharpening the videos. I would say most, if not all of us, are using AI in some ways. But I see a big danger in where we're going right now. It's just I don't know where we're heading. It's really, yeah, I don't know. It's just we just have to wait what's going to happen.
Yeah, it's a strange time.
But I don't like the development that they mark your images soon with AI when you only removed a piece of a stone or something, or if you sharpened the image with AI. I don't think it's right to mark it as AI. Yeah, but at the end, what counts is my own experience, how I feel about it. I have to find my own ethics that works for me. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's a big thing, the experience. And, to me, I feel like, I use, as you said, AI to remove something or to sharpen things or to denoise. But, that term, I think we've been doing that all along, essentially. We just didn't call it AI. We called it something else. We go into Lightroom and we dodge and burn and do all those things. We could call that AI if we want to.
Yeah, absolutely.
But there's still an art to it. There's such a gray area there with some of those things. But you're right. If the image didn't actually exist, then you didn't have the experience, and I don't think that's worth a whole lot. It's all about the experience.
Yeah.
And that's what you provide, experiences, to go out into this remote area in the Yukon and have the opportunity to shoot. Maybe talk a little bit about some of the workshops that you offer and what someone would be able to experience if they were involved in one.
Yeah, so we offer workshops in the Indian summer, with those beautiful colors, with those amazing northern lights here, and including some bear photography and wildlife photography. And then we have the winter magic workshops. I mean, this is absolutely unique. You're far away from any tourism. You got that stunning black ice, with those cracks. And I mean, and the aurora with the reflection on the ice, those mystic, beautiful mountain landscapes where we go out with snow machines sometimes, and it's a really unique outdoor experience. And then, of course, the eagle photography, where I can bring all my experience of 30 years of eagle photography to each participant. Yeah, it's just, that's about it. Yeah. And now we will have a Northern Light trip going up to the Arctic Circle coming up soon. Yeah.
Oh, wow. Wow, that's fantastic. So which ones are on your property then? Are all of them available right here and we could stay in your cabins, or how does that work?
Yeah. So with the Eagles, we mainly stay in a very fancy hotel in Haines, and but with the winter workshops, we mainly concentrate of staying here in the cabins, because here, the cabins, you're far away from any light pollution. You're fully integrated in nature, so that gives you the opportunity to realize amazing shots out in nature away from lights. So it's a combination of both. So for on some trips we travel a lot. On the Indian summer tour we do a round trip along the Yukon and Alaska, and the winter trips are mainly based here in and around the cabins, and the Eagle tours are a combination of both.
Could you describe a little bit about what the accommodations are like then if you're staying on your property?
So it's very basic. You're integrated in nature, and so people can load up their batteries, charge their batteries for the cameras in here in the main house, and everything runs over a solar system. We're off the grid here. The cabins are very basic, no running water, but water out of canisters. They can shower in a sauna. They have a shower cabin in there. Sauna is on every day, every night. So it's a basic rustical life, but clean. And yes, I said,
Warm?
you step out that door, and the lights are right there, and then you can hear the howling of the wolves, and you're fully in that nature. It's beautiful.
Well, what an experience to be able to be just immersed like that. That would be just magical, I would think. And you shared several of your Northern Lights images with me that we'll definitely have on the screen. Is there one of them that you wanted to maybe talk about specifically?
I mean, every Northern Light is different. I wouldn't have a specific aurora shot where I would have a deep connection with it, like with some wildlife images. I think with the aurora photography, it's about being out there in that silence, away from other people, in that remoteness. And I did send you some images from that glare black ice. And yeah, I mean, standing out there, be on the snow machine for 2 hours, driving through the dark of the night, and being out there on that ice, and you hear that ice crumbling and cracking under your feet from the mass of ice. And then you got the aura above you, and with the reflection, and you hear the wolves howling in the distance. This is just an unbelievable experience.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, but I wouldn't have a specific. I had lots of moments with Northern Lights, but nothing specific like with the wildlife.
Yeah. Well, I just can't imagine what it would be like to be able to open that cabin door and just look out, hear the silence, hear possibly the wolves, look up, see the lights dancing above you. Just fantastic stuff. So if someone was interested in one of your workshops, how do they go about contacting you and scheduling that?
Yeah, I think the easiest is to go over the website, send me a message, and there's also a link in my bio in the Instagram, and they can always contact me and ask questions. I'm very easy, we just sometimes it's better to discuss or talk about things from person to person. And yes, so if someone is interested, they can always connect to me over those links in Instagram and or over the website glanzmanntours.com. Yeah.
So with the accommodations, do you guys provide meals while people are there, or are people bringing their own food in?
No, we provide meals. That's all provided. Except when we're down in Haynes in the hotels, then most of the time people want to eat their own meal in the restaurant, by choice. But when we're here, we provide the food.
So are you eating off the land, or are your guests eating off the land then?
Yes and no. So we're not allowed to feed them wild game. This is illegal, and I think it's good. It's illegal to use wild game commercially. But I can do it with salmon, and we have lots of greens from our garden here. So it's and I love cooking. Oh. I hate good. Washing dishes, but I love cooking.
That's great. Well, I really appreciate you taking the time to talk with me today, and just such a fascinating lifestyle, I think. I wish that I was more rustic and, maybe a little bit more isolated, and to be able to talk to you and know that you're living out that dream that you had, that's just fantastic. But as you said, it doesn't come without, some sacrifices along the way. So what a neat story that you have, though. So thank you so much for taking the time to talk with me today.
Thank you so much. And, I think it doesn't matter where we live and how we live. There is always a sunny side and some compromises. And this is just the way I decided to live my life, and happy man here.
Well, thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Matthew. It was a pleasure to be here.
If you're listening to this episode of the Wild Shutter podcast on an audio platform, check out the YouTube video so you can see the incredible imagery that's coming from Beat's cabin and surrounding area. Thanks again for tuning in. We'll see you next time.